Good morning. Welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better our world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Carrie Graff, your worship associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by our minister, the Reverend Eileen Casey Campbell. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, including music by Bill Mouse, and religious education for children 3 and over by Brian Casey Campbell and Kaya Mouse. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway, and whether it's your first visit or your thousandth, we are glad that you're here. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel, and we plan on continuing with hybrid services so you can join us each week here in person, on Zoom, or later on YouTube. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera back there by Tom. And at the end of the service, we'll invite our friends on Zoom to turn their cameras and wave back. I have a couple of announcements to share with you today. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the card on or near your chair, and we invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket right up there after Bill rings the chimes and begins to play. You can also come forward to drop a pebble in the water if you have a joy or sorrow to share that you, or a joy or sorrow that you prefer not to share. After the service today, we will have our annual meeting, and the meeting will be a time for a few quick and easy congregational decisions before the potluck, and we encourage all members to stay and cast their votes. And even if you didn't bring a dish today, you're welcome to stay and eat. We always have enough for everyone, especially today. There's a lot of food back there, so please stay for potluck after the church meeting. Please join us on Friday, June 13th at 6 p.m. for potluck dinner and a protest sign-making event to prepare for the No Kings protest on Saturday, June 14th from 2 to 4 at the intersection of 332 and 5 and 20 in Canandaigua. The SEJ committee is providing presentation boards for the signs, and Matt and Carrie Ross McGuire are providing paint and markers. The updated church members and friends directory is ready, and a print copy is at the back of the sanctuary, or you can use the link from the email that Scarlett sent out to see it online. And if you'd like a print copy of the directory, please let Scarlett know, or just print it off yourself. On Saturday, June 21st at noon, our congregation will host a booth at the Finger Lakes Pride Fest with our Rochester UU sibling congregations at the Ontario County Fairgrounds. And if you're interested in helping blow bubbles, give glitter blessings, or letting folks know about our church, please let Reverend Eileen or Laura know. This summer, we are planning for simple Sunday services in the months of July and August, and we will need people just like you to lead them. If you sign up to lead, you'll have a script provided and be able to either choose your own readings or have them selected for you. It's easy and more fun when everybody takes turns and you don't have to listen to the same people talk every week. So see Danielle Lyon to sign up for a slot. It really is not a big pressure thing, so even if you're not super comfortable doing it, seriously, you'll just be given everything and you can lead it. It's a piece of cake. Last year, we earned $750 in the holiday craft fundraisers, so start your crafting now so we can sell things at the craft fundraiser. And are there any other announcements for the good of the community today? Karen, come on back. You did not get off the hook.
We've had something called the Yates Progressives for 20 years, and it was sort of dwindling because we're getting older and stuff. But one of the members got a hold of David K. Johnston, who's known to a lot of people, but not everybody. He wrote 2 books about Trump, and he's known him for 30 years. And how can we save democracy is the theme of the speech, and it's this coming Tuesday in the Baptist Church in Penyan. And I have a few flyers here. It's 7 o'clock. And we've had him before, and as I say, he's well known. He wrote tax stuff for New York Times and a bunch of other stuff. You can Google him.
A couple of months ago, some kids down in RE planted butterfly weed seeds. Butterfly weeds grow to be about 18 inches tall, covered with orange blossoms. Butterflies and bees love them, and as we know, the pollinators are in trouble. So back in the entryway are a bunch of these plants. If you're willing to plant it in a sunny location and nurture it for about a year, it'll have beautiful flowers. It'll attract bees and butterflies. The instructions are on the cards that you can take with you.
From the Social Environmental Justice, we heard about a framing frenzy for Habitat for Humanity, August 23rd at the Zion Fellowship parking lot on Bristol Road in Canandaigua. There's an informational meeting, which has already passed, but the contact for it is on this flyer that'll be on the bulletin board in the back.
What is it? Framing frenzy for Habitat for Humanity, like how frame. Gotcha. As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to please silence your phones or any devices that might bing or buzz. We now enter a space of worship. And now is the time to bring forward any joys or sorrows or come up and drop a pebble. Rory and Ewan, would you like to come up and light the chalice with me, please? So Rory is now 9, and his favorite color is blue, and he loves art. And Ewan is 5.5, and favorite color is rainbow, and his favorite food is spaghetti. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs, like this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Hospital chaplaincy. A lot of times I would be with people on their hardest days. Every once in a while it was one of their best days because they had a baby born or something. It went really well. They found out their cancer was gone, but usually it was one of their hardest days that they called me for. And I sat with them through whatever it was they were holding. And my boss in the spiritual care department at the hospital and my mentor said that your primary job as a chaplain, my primary job and sometimes the only job, is to let the heart have its day. He would lecture that over and over. When I got a call on the little hospital pager and was rushing off down to the operating room or to the emergency department or wherever I was paged to, going out the door, he would say, "Slow down, let the heart have its day." And at first, I took that to mean do nothing. Sometimes do only what prevents others from doing something worse than nothing, right? Stop folks from coming in with platitudes like everything happens for a reason, or there's some big lesson in this loss, or everything's going to be fine, just hold on. And sometimes I took it to mean just sort of hold the space passively, doing nothing. But it didn't take me too long to realize that letting the heart have its day was really a cooperative act. Letting implies that I just stood back and did a whole lot of nothing, but it turns out that when we let each other's hearts have their day, no matter what kind of day they're having, there is a deep being together in that. We give each other permission to feel fully when we show up with one another, when we're deeply present with one another, not absent, and not holding everyone's absence at bay, right? And I think for sure that's why we come to church. Because no matter what kind of day we're having, we know in this space our heart is allowed to have its day because we showed up together, because we promised to one another whatever's on our hearts, we are with you. So friends, would you rise in body or in spirit this morning and sing together our opening hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love. And now it's time for a story. If you'd like to hear the story a little closer up, you can come up front to sit on the rug in front anytime during the story. And if you need to go back to your grown-up during the story, that's okay too. This morning's story comes to us from all kinds of different folk traditions, probably from Arab folk stories first. And it goes like this. Give each other a little bit of space, my kids. Do I have a helper this morning? Does anybody want to be? Okay, Ewan, come be a helper, and then I will take Rory and Paolo to be extra helpers too, okay? So we start with Ewan, who was a water boy. It was his job and his family to carry water, and he had to walk quite a long way down an old dirt road to a well. They didn't have water that came into their house through pipes in this story. Ewan, in the story, had to walk all the way down the road to the well. And so he would get two big pots, big ceramic pots to carry water in. And so, Rory, you're one of the pots, and Paolo, you're the other pot. So you're going to go on either side of Ewan. Wait, because here's what he did. Crouch down on either side of him. Ewan he had a big stick that went over his shoulders and rope that went down to each pot so that each pot would hang off either side of the stick. And he would walk down the road, walking down the road, carrying the empty pots, and then he would stop at the well, and he's not going to run into Maria, and he would fill them up with water, glug, 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 and then it would be much heavier on the way home, wouldn't it? He would carry those pots on his shoulders, one on each side, all the way home. But here's the thing, the little pot on the left, this little pot had a crack in it. And so a little bit of water would trickle out. And by the time he got home with his pots, this pot was only 3/4 full, and the other one was all the way filled up. And so the little pot on the left always felt a little bad about himself. Going home from the well every day, that little pot would tell himself a story like, I'm a cracked pot and I'm not very good. I leak water and I can't carry as much as my sibling pot can carry. I'm losing water for the family. I'm broken. I'm not good enough for this job. But every day Ewan would carry the pots to the well and fill them up and carry them home, nevertheless. And then finally, one day, the little pot was feeling so sad and broken that it said to the boy, I think you should get a new pot. I shouldn't be your left side pot anymore because I am cracked and broken and I'm not worth anything to this family. And Ewan said, you are worth something. And he picked up the pots and went down the road, and he pointed out on this day to the little cracked pot. He said, look along the side of the road on the left where I walk home with you filled with water every day. And on that side of the road, there were rows and rows of wildflowers blooming and making the whole path, the whole journey that Ewan took every day a little more beautiful. Because this cracked pot trickled a little water on them every morning to make those flowers grow. And suddenly the pot with a crack in it, who felt like he wasn't worth anything, felt like maybe he was somebody who mattered too. And this is the end of our story. Thank you for helping me tell it. You can go back to your seats when you're ready.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week, we usually spotlight a group or committee and thank them for the gift of time, but today, the group is all of the church leaders who run the various committees. So you'll hear more about what everybody's doing at the annual meeting. A quarter of our plate collection for the blooming season will go to our service partner, Family Promise of Ontario County. Family Promise unites existing agencies, volunteer organizations, and the faith community in Ontario County to provide a pathway for homeless children and their families to secure reliable housing and self-sufficiency. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. Now we'd like to invite you into ritual of goodbye with Reverend Eileen. It might get a little messy or tangled, but if anything has defined our shared ministry here, it is that we aren't afraid of a little mess. We're going to start with these balls of yarn tied around Reverend Eileen's wrists, and with them, we'll visualize the connections we've made in this shared ministry together. And then we'd ask you to wave a hand if you can think of a time when your life with this church was connected to Eileen's ministry. And then Karen, or maybe it's Laura, one of them, is going to bring the microphone to you to name it and wrap the yarn around your wrist. If you're joining us on Zoom, the yarn will have to be imaginary, but you can type your connection with Eileen's ministry, and then Danielle will read it aloud into the mic. Yeah, sure. So we'd ask you to wave a hand if you can think of a time in your life with this church when you were connected to Eileen's ministry. And then if you could name it, we're going to tie a part of the string around your wrist as you're naming what your connection to her ministry was.
Okay, so for example, I'm not going to get tied because I'm going to do the mic thing, but I will say that I was never on a board before, and I learned a lot by, you're going to start crying right away, by being on the board with Eileen, and there's a reason I stayed on for 6 years. So that's how I'm connected to Eileen.
So last year sometime she did a sermon, and I don't even remember anything about it except that there was an ending. I was in a great deal of pain at the time, and at one point during the sermon she said, if you hold on to your pain, you're also not able to feel the joy. And it was the first time I was like, oh, I guess I have to let go of some of this pain if I ever want to feel joy again. And that was very meaningful.
All of your sermons have been impactful for me, at least, and some advice through the loss of my mom and blessing our children, and just a lot of little things
So when I first came 2 years ago, I was very, very broken, kind of like that little pot. And she was one of the first people to talk to me, although the whole congregation made me feel so welcome. And I think about that woman all the time.
For me, the idea of rest and, taking steps back as being something that is equally valid to give myself and everybody else a little bit more grace and space.
So something that I've learned with Eileen's ministry is I've learned all kinds of songs. She would email me on a Wednesday and say, hey, on Sunday, I wondered if you could sing this such and so song after the sermon. And I would look at it and it's like, well, I've never heard of this singer and I've never heard of this song, but that's okay because YouTube has the music and Google has the words, and I was able to learn them. And I just have enjoyed so many of them. Not to mention, the one that comes quickly to mind is that on Easter Sunday we would have to have a Grateful Dead song.
also, but I'm also connected with Eileen starting every Wednesday when Bill starts practicing his songs over and over and over and over again. And I also love kind of revealing of some of the possible realness to stories in the Bible. The loaves and fishes come to mind, but there are many times we offer me different, more fables than
I've been connected with Eileen and religious education for a long time, and it has changed as our church has grown and aged. But Eileen's message was always how important it is, and here are some ideas about how we can do this with sometimes a few kids, sometimes more kids, very different kids. And Eileen made the playground, and so many ideas about how children fit into our service as well as their own time. So thank you so much.
I can't use this one, but see you, team.
So, is this where you're talking to me? So Eileen was instrumental in my own transition into the Unitarian Universalist faith. I came from a very different faith I grew up with, and as I came to this church, the first question was, is religion something I want in my life anymore? And you, Eileen, you created a space where I feel like that was okay. Where I can have my children here and be accepted. Thank you so much for what you've done in my life. For teaching me those new member meetings, all the way up to being a board president, and serving in the many different roles that have been available to me in this church. I appreciate the life-lasting impact that you've had on me and my family.
We haven't been here long, but it's been a place where our whole family and our whole selves have felt welcome in a way that I don't think we ever have before. So thank you for making that possible and making that space for us.
I just wanted to say that there was a time when I wasn't doing so well, and I was able to call you and talk to you and not feel any type of judgment. And through your sermons, I've been able to really grow up, and it's amazing to be able to have my daughter blessed by you as well. So there's been many, many ways that you have just impacted us. So thank you.
I feel like this is the time when we're supposed to save for these and all the other unsaid emotions that we have and can't express. We really want to thank you. It's been a wonderful 7 years.
Yes. And now, just as Eileen's ministry with us is ending, we will cut the strands of yarn between us.
So the idea is that people have like little bracelets on their own wrists, and Eileen has this. So I'm going to.
Yes. Yeah. So our time together is ending, but we will keep the piece of yarn wrapped around our wrists, and so will Eileen, just as we will all continue to hold on to the impact of our work together.
Now is the time in our service when we lift up our joys and our sorrows. We promise to one another every week that whatever is on our hearts, be it celebration or pain, we are with one another. We have lots on our hearts this morning. Lots of folks, myself included, share sorrow and grief over this last Sunday in this particular shared ministry together. And I share all sorts of hope for the next shared ministry that you will invite into this space. I know how beautiful it is to be welcomed by you. We're sharing with a friend fear over so much right now, particular sorrow for the continuing terrorization of good, hardworking people living in the United States as migrants. We're also sharing many joys today. Joy with Peter at the beauty of this spring, the trees, the bushes, all of it. We share in celebration with Jody that her grandson is with her today. We share in Melissa's joy at a visit from her sister Andrea and some sadness to see her go. We share in Lynn Cronice's concern for a friend who heals from shoulder surgery. We celebrate Reverend Maureen, who turns 95 next week. Happy birthday, Maureen. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Maureen. Happy birthday to you. And we share
share enormous joy with Carrie and Terrell, who are getting married in September. Congratulations. For all these joys and sorrows, and for everything left in the silence of our hearts, we drop one more stone in the water, and we make the promise we make to each other every week that we are with one another. Will you say it with me? We are with you. And now it's time for religious education. If you're going downstairs for Children's Church with Miss Kaya and with Brian, you can walk to the stairs and meet them there. And I invite you now into a time of centering and meditation, followed by some shared silence. Let's take a deep breath in as we remind ourselves that by shared silence, of course, as always, we mean the absence of grown-ups talking to one another so that we can listen more closely to the sounds of life, to the birds in the trees outside the window, to the footsteps of our children on the stairs, to the breath of the neighbor in the seat beside us, to the depths of our own heart. Let's take another big breath and let it out with a sigh as your shoulders fall away from your ears. Perhaps your eyes fall closed and you turn inward now. I offer as words for centering this morning this poem from Mary Oliver. Look, the trees are turning their own bodies into pillars of light, are giving off the rich fragrance of cinnamon and fulfillment. The long tapers of cattails are bursting and floating away over the blue shoulders of the ponds, and every pond, no matter what its name is nameless now. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. The fires and the black river of loss, whose other side is salvation, whose meaning none of us will ever know. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Amen.
I had a preaching professor in seminary who taught us that every sermon should have a one-sentence point. You should be able to sum up the meaning of the message in one sentence, maybe two if he was feeling really friendly that day. And so should everyone who hears it, right? Maybe not the exact same sentence, but we should all leave worship having arrived at roughly the same point. A clear enough point that it fits into one sentence we could tell our friends about at brunch. He also told us after a semester of having written a new sermon every week that he thought every preacher, especially very good and grounded preachers, really only has one sermon in them, one meaningful thing to say to the world, and hopefully a few thousand interesting ways to say it. He was an expert enough preacher that he made his career out of teaching other people how to do it, but nevertheless, I was pretty skeptical. I felt like I was bursting with messages to share with the world. That was a decade ago. And looking back over the last 10 years, and especially these last 7 standing here every other week or so, preaching for all of you, I think he maybe might have been right. When I mentioned in our last worship meeting that I thought I would preach in my last sermon the same thing I've always preached here, Danielle said, "You gonna preach about asparagus?" Joke's on you, Danielle, I am gonna preach about asparagus. In case you somehow missed it, my first sermon here and a few times subsequently, I told a story about how I decided not to plant asparagus in the garden at my first house because I didn't plan on living there long enough to harvest any. And how actually I did live there for 9 years, and I could have enjoyed a lot of asparagus if I'd been generous enough to plant it for somebody else, to give it away. I didn't know how long I'd be here when I started in 2018 with a 1-year contract and a big fat maybe when it came to next year's budget or staffing or direction of shared ministry. But I promised you then, in my first sermon, however long we had, I was all in. Let's plant for the future of this church, I said, no matter how much time we might get together. For the next year and the next 10 years and the next 110 years. This is the hard thing about love, isn't it? All loving includes a leave-taking. We don't always get to know when the leaving is coming. But one way or another, we someday have to learn how to let go of each other. As Mary Oliver said, we have to love what is mortal, to hold it against our bones, knowing our life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, let it go. And every week, this is the love we have promised to one another. However soon or hard the leaving seems to be today, I am with you. There is no holding on in love, no keeping or owning. We only get to take part in the joy of love if we give it away. I think that's really all I've ever had to say to you. The only truth I've ever felt really mattered enough to lift up in this holy space together. And maybe it didn't take you 7 years to nail it down, but 150-ish sermons later, here is what I think it comes down to. We can share in the grace of this world, only in as much as we share in its vulnerability. We can participate in that love that leaves no one out, in as much as we are ready to let it go. Most of us do not show up here, in this place or in any church, because we're fine and dandy, because we already feel healed and whole and full of purpose and promise and clarity. We come through these doors with a heart that is having a day, carrying all the hurt and brokenness the world has given us. We come carrying a rage we don't yet know is called hope. We come furious at injustice and terrified for the future and for one another and feeling desperately alone and also like we couldn't possibly be alone, holding a latent knowing that it can't be just us holding all of this. And certainly, we can't hold it alone. And what we do here is not take away that pain, all that sorrow. We are not here to remove your rage or smooth away your sense of brokenness. We are not here to fix the cracked pot. We don't promise to one another when we share our deepest joys and sorrows, it's all right, you'll be fine, don't feel sad. We promise we are with you. Whatever you're in, we're with you. This is not a faith that is offering security from sorrow, from loss, from the vulnerability that comes from knowing how inextricably tied we are to all things. This is a faith that embraces that and promises we are here to hold it together. It's like an unprosperity gospel. And I get that that's maybe not the best way to sell a church, probably won't earn me any private jets, but it's apparently the one sermon I've got. And anyhow, the theology of security that promises if you do all the right things and pray all the right prayers, you won't have pain or sorrow or brokenness anymore isn't a theology at all. It's a false idol. It's the same old false idol colonialist capitalism has always prayed to, promising invulnerability in exchange for your money, your labor, your body, your soul. And I think the only sermon I've got is that invulnerability is the last thing we need, because our joy lives in the same place our sorrow does. In that place inside of us made out of the love that saves, the love that leaves no one out, all the biggest feelings of our heart reside together. Closing ourselves off from our own pain does not protect our joy. Separating ourselves from others' pain does nothing but cut us off from belonging, the very same belonging we came in yearning for. Letting ourselves be open to the grief and heartache of a world in pain also leaves us open to joy, open to belonging, open to love. Our joy is not safer without sorrow allowed in. It is inextricably woven with our sorrow and the sorrows of the world. We get to share in the grace of the world in as much as we share in its vulnerability. We get to experience the wonder of being held by the love that leaves no one out only when we understand ourselves to be woven together with every other single thread in the web of life, and absolutely vulnerable to what happens to any part of it. The only faith worth our time and our money and our bodies and our souls is the one that calls us to embrace the vulnerability of love in a hurting world. Letting that vulnerability be a source of connection instead of disconnection. Knowing that we are not in control and cannot buy our own security for any price makes room for the grace of a love so immense it breaks our hearts sometimes. Connects us deeply to a world that is worth a broken heart. Why do we come to church, anyway? I only have one answer, even though I've given you a different one about 150 times. We come here to learn how to sit with the specter of loss, which is always a partner to love. To learn how to let love hold us without trying to grasp at it. To learn how to give ourselves up to vulnerability and the grace of love. And because it's really all just been one sermon all along, here is what I said to you on our first Sunday together. I may only be here with you for a short while, I said. My work here, our work together, is a time-limited ministry. And really, when we think about it, all our work is time-limited ministry. We are all heading sooner or later in the same direction. But I'm here to say this morning that I'd like us to plant asparagus together. Because I'm all in. Let us be a people who are all in without regard to the amount of time we have left. I'd like us holding the knowledge that the future is uncertain and that leave-taking is part of life to put down roots anyway. I believe, I said back then, that together we can plant our hopes and plans and intentions for a world that will live beyond us. When we direct our love toward the future, toward the unknown, anything becomes possible. I want us to grow a church that lives long beyond any of our little lives. I want us to grow such a love within ourselves that it lives far longer than our bodies. I want us to work together to grow a more kind, more peaceful, more just world, not only for ourselves, but for the whole wide web beyond us. It's really been the same sermon all along. Friends, I have planted all I can here with you. I trust you to know what should be weeded out and what is worth tending for the next year, or the next 10 years, or the next 110 years. I trust you to know, without me telling you every week, how to practice the vulnerability of loving what you love like your own life depends upon it, and, when the time comes, letting it go. May it be so, and amen.
Kind friends all gathered round, there's something I would say, that what brings us together here has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside, where strangers are and family and holiness and hide. I've been out before the sunrise to watch the day begin. I always knew I'd find you, though I never did know how. But like sunrise on a cloudy day, you stand before me now. You must give yourself love. What you're after, open up your heart to the tears and laughter, and just give yourself to love. Give yourself to love.
Usually I get a minute to get over the music. But listen, I think I've said everything I could possibly say to you. And so I want to ask you as a benediction if you will say to one another the promise we make every week and make all our lives that we are with you. Will you say it? Amen. And will you rise in body or in spirit, here or online, to sing our closing hymn, number 108.
If you are joining us on Zoom, now is the time to turn your camera on if you'd like to wave goodbye. Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.